Welcome to Well Played Podcast, episode 79, a show on all things playful and joyous. Together, we are finding the joy in the journey of life. This episode, we have Jay Posick with us. Super excited to have him. And the topic we're tackling is building a culture of gratitude and sort of joy within our staff culture at schools. But before we begin, Jay, why don't you introduce yourself? This is your first time on the show.
Well, thank you there, Michael. Jay Posick. I'm the principal at Merton Intermediate School in Merton, Wisconsin. It's a little tiny town that has a four-way stop and a feed mill and a bar. That's about the extent of our town. But we have a great school with at intermediate school. We have about 400 students, grades 5 through 8. I'm in my 12th year there as the principal. 5 years before that, I was an assistant principal in the Elmbrook School District at Pilgrim Park Middle School. And the 15 years prior to that, I was a teacher in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but not all at the same time.
I have to admit, I'm super excited to have another Wisconsin, educator on the show. There has not been many in the 79 shows, so this is super exciting. Same time zone, same everything. This was easy to connect, except Jay and I are both experiencing the same weather problems. So we're gonna hope no one's electricity goes out in this thunderstorm right now.
Yes, if the screen goes black, it's just because we have no power. Yeah,
that's right. Well, let's get to it. I'm gonna sort of set the context here. Jay and I were at the same ed camp this weekend, and a session was pitched on things that work was the title of the session, and it was just talking. I guess it was just kind of open-ended about anything that was working, but the topic quickly went to sort of this sort of how do you build culture, how do you build a rapport with your fellow colleagues that kind of is above the just working relationship, like how can you have that kind of setup? And it was great. People were suggesting all sorts of things, and I thought this would be a perfect topic on here as we're talking about finding joy. I gotta say, for me at my school, we've done activities to try to build this. One of the things my principal does that I absolutely love, at the beginning of the year, our first staff meeting, she always takes us someplace mysterious. We don't know where we're going. She always sort of like messes with us a little bit. She sends us emails before that first meeting where she's like, make sure you bring your tennis shoes. You better wear long pants. And we're all like, oh man, what are we doing? We need to wear long pants. We need tennis shoes. Like, are we going to be like going out in the woods? Or we're like, what's the thing? But it's this great bonding activity. So like in her mind, we got a million more meetings to go. We can get all the work done later. How about that first meeting? We just, instead of having a division meeting, let's go out and do something, experience something together. And it's a great way to set that tone throughout the year.
I like that idea. I may have to steal that.
It is fun.
That's what we do in education, right? We borrow each other's ideas and make them work for the building that we happen to be in.
Yeah. No, Pam Nosbush is her name. She's done a lot. She's on Twitter. Everybody should check her out. She has lots of neat aspects that she adds, and that's one of I know all the staff's favorite is just that she's done it for years, and it's just fun. It's a lot of fun. But moving beyond that, I mean, that's what she does in that first meeting. But how do we keep that up? What are different ways we express kind of gratitude to each other in the educational space? Could be formulaic, could be an activity that we do. Or it could be these little things about building relationships. Do you have some that you like to do?
Yeah, there's a lot that I like to do. In fact, my favorite thing to do is visit classrooms. And today in classrooms, I have 27 staff that I happen to oversee, and I got into 24 of the 27 classrooms today. And there were times where I was just not really a participant. I was just in the room watching what was going on, maybe getting an email taken care of or some other things that I have to do as a principal. But there were 7 times, I think, where I just left a little handwritten note to the teacher while I was leaving the classroom. And it was, something as simple as, I love the energy that you bring to conferring with kids when you're sitting on the floor during readers workshop time, or your positivity shines through your lessons and the kids are really engaged in what you're doing. Those sorts of things, which I like to do. I probably need to do it more often than I do, but it's one of those things that I know that when I do hand a teacher a note, that note's going to wind up posted somewhere in their classroom to look at a later time. So those little things, I really enjoy doing that. I've got a great building leadership team who also helps me stay on the straight and narrow and lets me know when I'm doing things well, and more importantly, lets me know when I'm not doing things as well. And we do things like we've had a salad luncheon that we all prepare for the staff. Sometimes we'll do a breakfast that we prepare for staff. My favorite thing to do is cook pancakes because it's about the only thing I can do and not cause too many problems. Um,
I gotta
Little things like
I gotta
that, you know.
say, no, these are all good, but I want to like first for every teacher that's out there listening to this, I just want to commend you for going into our classrooms, kind of doing those informal, I don't even know if I want to say they're observations. They're just like, you just want to be present in your teachers' lives and in their classrooms and show that you care about their passion. I mean, they love being teachers, and the fact that you sort of drop in is huge. That just that validation that somebody else is sort of seeing it. It's another adult is seeing it, right? Like my kids like what I do. They give me high fives, but it's another thing to have like another adult check it out. That's
Yeah, I'll tell you,
huge.
it did not start that way. I'm in my 12th year in my current building, and I remember the first month of school, my first year. Every time I walked in the classroom, everything would stop, and they would say, "Hi, Mr. Posick," and all the kids would say, "Hi, Mr. Posick." I'm like, "No, really, seriously, dudes, just keep going.
Seriously,
I
dude.
don't
It's
need you
like
to,
I'm not
I don't
here.
need you to say hi to me. I'm not coming in because I want you to say hi. I'm coming in because I want to see what you're doing, right?" So it took a good month and a staff meeting where I said, "Hey, when I come into class, it's not so that I can have you say hi to me. It's because I want to watch what you do and I want to either help out with a lesson, sit down with a student and talk to them about what they're doing. I just want to get to know things." So that's how I hopefully started to build the culture that we have at our school. And now if I don't show up in somebody's classroom for like 2 days in a row, they send me an email, said, "Jay, where have you been? Come on, dude, you got to get into classes." So now I don't know if it's an expectation. It's just something that they notice
Well,
happens in all. So
it's exactly like the point of this topic. Like you have now built a culture of that like you are part of their classrooms. You're part of that experience, and they want you to be in there, and they notice when you're
yeah,
not. So that's, I mean, kudos to you. Additionally on that, I think it's really awesome that you also take that time to write that handwritten note. Uh, well, I mean,
yeah.
geez,
It,
it takes
it,
time. It takes time that you're there, and that's huge. You're dedicating your time to them and their passion. And then again, that extra layer of it takes time. You could have just sort of saw them in the hall later and said, "Great job,"
yeah.
and that would have been
Well,
nice. But it take
yeah.
that extra
Sometimes I
step.
do that too. But the high five when I'm leaving class or the thumbs up every once in a while. But today there are two specific things that happened today because I was in class that kind of caught me by surprise. The first one was I was in a math class and I had been sitting in there for 3 or 4 minutes maybe, and all of a sudden the teacher realized I was there. Up until that point, she had no idea that I was there. And I heard her ask one of the students in the front, "How long has he been in here?" Because the student didn't realize I was there either. So it was one of those things that, I was called a ninja today, which I mean, I take that with a badge of pride, right? That's, I can get into classrooms, see what's going on, and leave, and people don't even really realize that I'm there. And then the other thing that I thought was really cool is science teacher I work with. His name is Dave Wagner, and he does a phenomenal job with the kids. And he was beginning to talk about balancing chemical equations, and he said, "Mr. Posick, remember we talked about doing this? We were going to co-teach this lesson. Well, I'm putting you on the spot. How about you come up and just kind of introduce it for us?" So I said, "Sure, why not?" And so I got up in front of class and introduced balancing chemical equations. And one of our instructional assistants, when I was walking up, she said, "I'm going to take a video of this because I know you're going to want to see it." So she actually videotaped while I was doing the lesson, and it was all over. And Mr. Wagner said, "Mr. Posick, you did a very fine job. We'll continue with this lesson tomorrow." So, I mean, if I hadn't been in the classroom, I would have had no chance to be a part of actually what was going on. So that was pretty cool too.
That's really neat. And like I said, that all goes to building that sort of that culture and that team aspect. And kind of on the flip side of that, like that sort of makes probably, I'm guessing, the actual observation from you, like when it is, for the paperwork, for the
Mhm.
documentation, I
Yeah.
think that probably just makes it smoother for the teacher. It has to make it smoother for you too, because like now it's not this odd thing you're in the classroom. The kids aren't
Right.
acting different. The teacher's probably not acting that different. Like
Right.
it's probably just smoother all around.
It's there's this term that I don't particularly care for. That's the dog and pony show that teachers sometimes put on for an administrator when they're being evaluated. And because I'm in classrooms as much as I am, I never see that. I've seen the greatest lessons in the world, and I've seen the less than greatest lessons in the world, and I learn from both of them. The things that I learn from the greatest ones are what I can share with other colleagues and other staff members in the building, and the things I can learn from those things that don't go so well are, everybody's got to take a risk, right? If everything was perfect every single time, you're not learning everything. If you already know it and it's all perfect, you haven't learned anything. So to struggle is not a bad thing. And there's a number of teachers that will say, Jay, I remember when you were in for this one particular lesson and it just completely and totally bombed. And I said, yes. And how did you fix that? Well, the next day. So at least when they know I'm in there, if it's a bad lesson, they're going to reflect on it and realize what they can do to make it better the next time that they go through. So, yeah, they're not afraid to fail, which I think we want that for both our staff members. I do. I want that for my staff, and I want that for our kids, because if you fail, that means you're taking chances, and when you take chances, there's a really good opportunity for some great learning to occur.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I say that a lot when I go present about gamification because I think sometimes, obviously, when I'm presenting, I'm showing those like best, like here, this activity worked really well, this style really works well, this mechanic works really well. But then I usually try to build in there some like failures, like not every gamification idea rolled off was perfect. A lot of them no longer exist. Some of them were a good idea that like I knew I could massage and work towards that right space, and some just had to be abandoned. But you got to take those risks. If
Yeah.
you're not taking those risks, I I don't think you're gonna do really well at any job. I mean, like really most jobs, you gotta stretch yourself.
Well, I can even equate that to how we have students reading now in our language arts classes. That you pick up a book off the shelf in the library or in the teacher's classroom, and you start reading it, and you realize, boy, this really isn't for me. And back when I was in school, 1,000 years ago, if you picked up a book and started to read it, you had to read it to the end, whether you liked it or not, because that's just what you were supposed to do.
Yep.
And now we're giving students the license to start something and realize, I thought this book was going to be like this, and it really isn't, and I don't have any interest in it. And as long as they provide us a reason for why they're choosing something else, then go ahead and choose something else. So I equate that to that risk taking stuff, right? I'm
Yeah.
going to try a book that I've never don't know who the author is. I'm not really sure if I like the genre of the book, but I'm going to pick it up and start to read it, and maybe I'm going to like it, and maybe I'm not. So we can model that for the kids too.
Yeah. Speaking of modeling, I think that's what sort of came up in my head when we were talking about this on the weekend. I thought about how as at my school we do advising with our kids and we do these
Mhm.
advisory programs and we do these great lessons on looking each other in the eye, building a relationship. We build this wonderful community with this. We actually, I think we do the same thing your school does, the circle of power and respect.
Yes. Yep.
um, we actually we totally do because we got the idea from you at Camp Madison. You had mentioned that, and I then came back to my staff and said like, oh, like come on team, should we do this? And the sixth grade team adopted it. But I
Yeah.
digress. But so we do these great lessons, right? And then it kind of dawned on me when we were having this discussion that we say those things. We nurture our kids towards those right actions about relationships. But then a lot of times at school, we're kind of all business when it comes to the other adults. Like
Mhm.
we're moving through our day. Hey, nice to see you, Jay, but I gotta go to the copy room, copy this stuff off, and do this for
Yeah.
my students. Everything's for the students. I'm not trying to say we're mean to each other, but we're not necessarily like super kind to each other either, because
Yeah.
we're just these moving bodies in the school for students. Like
Yeah, I've got to do what I have to do in order to get ready for the kids, and I'm sorry, but I don't have as much time for you as I'd like to. Right? Those
perfect.
kind. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so like it dawned on me like, shouldn't we be modeling for our kids? Like, shouldn't we stop for a moment and exchange and have a little laugh? Because we don't know when other kids are seeing that and they're like, oh man, like
yes,
they're having respect. They're having that moment.
yeah. That's one of the important. I talk to staff members all the time about making sure that they're in the hallway between, and during passing time, at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day. And part of it is because there's 200 kids moving through a hallway at a time. But the other part is that that's the opportunity that most teachers have to check in with one another, right? I can. We have a seventh and eighth grade hallway where there's 200 kids. Well, you can't get all the teachers in one area because the hallway is just too big for that to happen. But there's little pockets of people, and that it's neat to watch it change. It's like chess pieces; they go from spot to spot and have different conversations. And there might be a pattern that I'm not aware of, but there's that opportunity to get together and have conversation. In our sixth grade hallway, the four teachers are clustered in one little area because that's where all their classrooms are. So before school, they're checking in with kids, but they're having conversations. Our fifth grade does the same thing. But we also have weekly grade level meetings. And although there's a lot of work that gets done during those grade level meetings, there's also, I had we have ours on Thursdays, and I remember last Thursday on all three of the grade level meetings that I had, there was laughter, and sometimes it was laughter about stupid, silly things. And sometimes it was laughter because somebody was telling a story of something that happened to them during the summer that they just found a connection to with something else that we were talking about, right? So those conversations, like I said, although they're powerful and meaningful, sometimes you bring a little humor into it, and it's pretty cool to see what happens. So you just need to get to know each other on a different level, and it's not just I'm the math teacher, I'm the social studies teacher, I'm this teacher or that teacher. I'm a teacher of kids. And we have to be able to show them that we can get along as adults, just like they should be able to get along as kids.
I love it. I this year sort of trying to be a little more intentional about building those sort of relationships at school. Um, I've started trying to take that moment to reflect on what a teacher's done for me or impacted me, or I don't know, just a moment to sort of connect. I bought some little like thank you cards, little blank thank you cards, and I've been filling them out. And whenever sort of that spirit moves me, if I think of something that I could pick up, something little like a cup of coffee, I know some of the teachers really love Diet Coke, so I picked up like a case of that. I have a little refrigerator, so it's already cold. And what I try to do is like sneak into their room and just put the card and the Diet Coke or the card and the coffee. Uh, but it what sort of surprised me in doing that is how much it almost disarms the teacher, right? Like they're not expecting it. Like that just
Mhm.
doesn't, at least where I work, that doesn't happen. Like
Right.
we're kind of strictly business. Like I said, it's all for
Mhm.
the kids. We do a really great job for the kids. But like I don't know how much we're taking care of each other. And
Yeah,
um,
I end my nuts and bolts every week with this. It says, "Take care of the kids, take care of each other, take care of yourself." It's a quote from John Gunnell, who's a principal. Now, he was a principal at Baraboo Middle School, and now he's at one of the elementary schools in Baraboo. But I remember him dropping that into a Twitter chat a couple of years ago, and I asked him if I could use it, so I use it every week. And we always do a good job of the first one. We do an okay job with the second one, which is take care of each other, and we don't do a really good job with the last one, which is take care of yourself. And I think sometimes we have to be reminded of that, and it's a slap in the face with a health issue here or there. But I think that there's so much that we can do to help one another out, and I witness it quite often. We've got a teacher right now who's battling breast cancer, and the staff is just they're rallying behind her. And in fact, on Wednesday, there's a number of them are going to a local hair salon and getting pink hair extensions put into their hair all together as a big group. And they asked permission to leave campus to do that. I said it's 2 blocks down the road. I don't think anything's going to happen from 11:44 until 1:03 when your classes start again. So have a great time. I'm just not going to join you because I don't have hair for hair extensions. But it's those kinds of things, unfortunately, that we don't support each other until it gets to be a big thing like that. But it needs to be something that's more frequent. And I remember our conversations on Saturday. I've had staff meetings where we do a snowball fight where you write your name on a piece of paper,
yeah,
crumple it up, and throw it into the middle. And that's nice because you get that validation. But how do we find ways to do that are not forced, almost like like the principal says we're going to have a snowball fight and this is what we're going to do, right? Why can't it just
But
happen in a way, right?
true, but like to your credit, it's got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah,
So if that's the moment that we sort of open up, if that's the moment that's like, oh man, I didn't even know that the like Spanish teacher thought that of me, like that's
yeah,
that might get the traction going
yeah,
for the more organic moments where you take a time to have a cup of coffee with each other.
yeah.
You pick up an extra Danish on your way in, you know?
Mhm. Our building leadership team, we have these staff recognition awards that we do, and one of them at our last meeting said, instead of doing those, Jay, we really like those, but they're kind of old. We've done it for 3 years now. What if we had a bulletin board in the teachers' lounge and had everybody's name on it, and underneath everybody's name was a blank space? We had a bunch of post-its, and we just once in a while we go in and write something out in a post-it underneath that person's name, so that when they come through, they can either leave it there for others to see or take it for themselves, and so that they, maybe somebody else will write, maybe if you get a post-it note, you write one to somebody else. So something that's more of an ongoing sort of thing. So we're looking into how we can make that work. I think
That's an
that,
awesome suggestion. I
yeah,
love that kind of interactiveness. I like that they can leave it up, they can take it with them.
yeah. And the other thing I remember, very similar to the snowball fight, Jimmy Fallon's thank you notes that he does, whatever night of the week that happens to be.
Hmm.
Um, I did a video
Oh
doing Jimmy
gosh.
Fallon's thank you notes. And the funny thing is, as I'm writing these notes, I have to keep hitting my Chromebook to start the music over playing again, because there's music playing in the background.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really into the techie groove of things, but it worked out. But at the end, when I was all done, I looked right in the camera. I showed the video to the staff while they're in our meeting room, and I said on the back table, or thank you notes, you need to take 3. You need to write one for one of your colleagues. You need to write one for one of your kids. You need to write one for one of your family members. And as soon as you have one for the family members, make sure you put the address on it. I'll take care of the stamps. So it wound up being something where people were taking more than the 3. Can I take more than 3? I mean, you can take as many as you want, right? As many thank you notes as you want.
That's right.
And, so those little sorts of things that we just have to do once in a while. And unfortunately, we normally think about that like November and February, right?
Yeah.
When we've been in school for a long time, or February, like when is spring break going to, it's got to be coming soon, right? Spring break is coming soon. It's February.
Remember, people, we are doing this recording from Wisconsin, so
Yeah,
February we're looking for some
February.
warm weather.
Yeah, February, where if it gets above 32 degrees, we have a celebration in shorts and t-shirts, right, Michael?
That's right. That's right. So just keep that in context.
And that's outside in shorts and t-shirts.
Wherever you're listening to this, that's what we're doing in February.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point too about I going back to the one about like taking care of the kids. Man, we nail that.
Hmm.
Taking care of each other.
Yeah.
Like that is a somewhat take care of because you do stop and you do say hi and you do chit
Yeah.
chat by the copy machine room, whatever.
Mhm.
But that taking care of yourself, like that's so important.
Yeah.
And I know as teachers we're like 100% heart for the kids, but I gotta say like this comes with time. So if we have some new teachers here listening, recognize that taking care of yourself and taking care of the other teachers and taking care of those relationships does feed you and it does actually help take care of the kids. I think sometimes we don't want to do those other things because it's like no, I got to be all for the kids, all for the
Yeah.
kids. But like that tanking hit and one of the things that fills it back up can be the other relationships or the other self-care.
Yeah. Self-care is vital. If you're not taking care of yourself, so you get sick, and then you got to get recover from that. I mean, it can spiral into a bad into a bad way. So, I'm fortunate I have a chance to run once in a while. I run every day, but anyways, it's one of those things that I have to do that, and I don't know what would happen if I didn't do that. But if I do it after school, it's a time for reflection on the day. What things went really well, what things do I need to really take a look at to do differently. What things do I never want to do again because that was really a bad idea, right? Or sometimes there's those days where I know if I don't get my head clear before I go to school that it's not going to be a good situation. So, I'm lucky that I have a treadmill in the basement, and like on Sunday I ran 10 miles. I watched the first half of the Packer game. I was going to run anyways, but I was able to watch the Packer game, reflect on a whole bunch of things, and when the Packer game was over, I went upstairs and watched the end of the Brewer game. When that was done, was able to get right to schoolwork because I had everything kind of organized in my head for what I wanted to do. So if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of the kids or anybody else.
Yeah, no, it's so true. You know, that self care, super
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think too, as educators, when we create that culture, when we have that community at school that's healthy,
Hmm.
it changes everything. Like, I got to tell you right now, Jay, I work with, no offense to any of your teams, I work with the greatest team ever. I love my sixth grade team. I love the fifth grade team who's on the same floor. So, like, I got to tell you, like, it's the third floor. It's not necessarily fun to walk up 3 flights of stairs every time you want a cup of coffee. But I like bound up those stairs. Like, I love it. I love saying hi to everybody. I love seeing what other people are doing. I love it when I have my prep period and I go out in the hall and I see other teachers doing innovative things. I love the fact that we sometimes take a prep period just to say hi and just to stop in each other's rooms and talk for 5, 10 minutes and then go about the copy machine room, all that stuff. I love
Yes.
it. So, like, being part of that healthy team, just, I mean, literally, it changes everything. When you
It does.
start focusing on the positive, you start seeing the positive more. I mean, it's just there. But like
Yeah.
the opposite's true, right? Like if you're on that bad team and you focus on the negative, like you don't want to bound up those stairs, and then you
Right.
do complain about them being 3 flights of stairs, and then you complain about it being bad coffee, and then you're like, these people are loud in the hallway. Everything's just negative.
Yes. Yeah. When you work with good people, it does make your day. It makes your day go really fast. I didn't even realize it was 3:30 when it was 3:30 today when I had to go cover a math class for a teacher. So the day went by really quickly, but it was because I was in classrooms and seeing some good stuff, and there were great people around. And I've got a teacher new to our building this year, and she said in our grade level meeting last week, I think it was, she said. I've heard about the culture in this building, but I didn't realize it until I got here that it wasn't being made up. This was not fake. This is how it really is here. It's how it is all the time. And I said, well, thank you very much. And she said, well, Jay, you're the one who created this. And I said, no, look at the other people in this room. It can't just be one person creating the
Can't.
culture. I think that's the other thing that's important for teachers to understand. The principal, although if the principal sneezes, the whole school gets a cold. That's a quote from Todd Whitaker. I would also say that just because the principal sneezes doesn't mean you have to have a cold either. There's other things that you can do. So even if your principal isn't one who's a relationship builder, you can be that relationship builder to make sure that your team is as strong as it can possibly be, or your colleague next door is as happy as they can possibly be. Sometimes we just have to look at instead of looking out the window at what could be going on, look at the mirror at yourself and see what you might be able to do to make things a little better for everyone.
Well said. I can't believe it, Jay, but we are at the end of our time, so this makes it
Wow, that was
reflection
fast.
time. I know it just goes by. I love these chats.
Yes,
So today's quote, you ready?
I'm ready.
This is by Greg Mortensen. And Greg has quite a resume. Greg was a professional speaker, writer, former mountaineer. He's co founder and former executive director of the nonprofit Center for Asia Institute and founder of educational charity Pennies for Peace. So the guy was a busy dude.
Yes.
All right. And
Okay.
listen to what he says. And I don't always read sort of the resume of the people I'm quoting, but I think it was important for this quote.
Okay.
Greg says, slow down and make building relationships as important as building projects.
I would say that building relationships is more important than building projects. The better your relationships, the more you're going to be able to do together to make a difference in the world.
I mean, I agree, but I think for a guy that clearly was super busy changing the world, and then I think in the context of us in schools, like we just talked about, we're all about building the projects. I'm using projects to mean like our work, like I got to get to the copy machine, I got to do this, I got to do that, and we got grades due, and then I was going to work on my test, and I got to get these tests graded and back to the students, right. Uh,
Yeah.
but if, but like slow down for a minute. You know,
Hmm.
build that relationship. In the context of our conversation, we were talking about building it with your colleagues, but also slow down. Take that time to build that relationship with the students.
Yes.
Go to one of their volleyball games, like that the
Sit
that
down and eat lunch with them.
sit down and eat lunch with them. You got it, like
Play
take
football at recess.
take that
Go on the
moment.
swing.
Go on the swings. I love it. So yeah,
Yes.
take that moment, build that relationship, slow down, and I think it's a good quote, and I agree with you that the relationship really can unlock kind of better potential to truly change the world and make better projects in the end, right? Like that's the whole
I
point of
would
this.
agree. Yep. If you have a relationship built, then you have a more of a focus together. So if you're focusing together, you're going to be able to accomplish a whole lot more. That's for sure.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on Well Played with us.
Hey, it was my pleasure, and hopefully everybody can see my daughter back there behind me. She's a freshman in college now, but she used to be a dancer, so I'm in her
Nice.
room because it's away from everything else.
Nice. Well, I hope to have you back on. This was a great chat.
Well, thank you. I'd be happy to come on anytime.
All right. Everyone else, I'm super excited to have you guys listen and learn with me every week. And, don't forget to check out MrMatera.com. You can get links to my YouTube channel, blog posts, this podcast, all sorts of things. It's truly an honor. And I hope you guys enjoy your week and play on.